Hi, third graders. We are starting today on creating a landscape. Our landscape is different than a normal landscape because we are using patterns to create the illusion of rhythm. Not only that, but we are creating depth by using overlapping shapes. On the poster in the back of the room, under space, you can see how the distances or areas around, between, and within art are called space. There are some different ways to create the illusion of space. One is to include the elements of a background, a middle ground, and a foreground into your landscape. This is the things that are closest to you, in the middle of your view, and all the way furthest away. The other thing that we can do is to create overlapping shapes. We are doing this by tucking behind other things different layers. Lastly, we are creating this dancing rhythm within our landscape by adding a variety of patterns. Your job today is to plan your landscape shapes as well as begin brainstorming some of your patterns. You need to include 2 to 3 of all 4 of these different elements. You need 2 to 3 layers for a foreground. You'll notice that I'd call 1, 2, 3, but probably this one, or these ones are 3 for the foreground. 1, 2, 3. This one, and this one are middle ground. And then for my background, I have this shape, and I put these two together because they're both mountains. Lastly, you need to include details, 2 to 3 of them. And they're not just landform details, but they could include things like my tree, the sailboat, the rock, the mountains, the clouds. These are examples of details. The details actually draw your eye into that area of the composition, which is our full piece of art. So, in your art, you need to include 2 to 3 of all 4 of these different things. On your piece of paper, of course, start with your name, class, and number. This is very important because next week, you guys will be working on this again. Then, on the front of your paper, you should use a pencil and please do yourself a favor and draw light. Generally, plan out some shapes. Some can even resemble different things, like you could include some water. For your middle ground, I would put the detail onto the middle ground. Maybe I'll do a flower, possibly. Since we're doing a landscape, we need to choose something from nature. Or, I guess you could even do something more industrial, like you could put a building or a person sitting on the grass, or I don't know, boys and girls, use your imagination and try to integrate some creative thought into this process. Definitely sketching very light. It would really be a bummer if you had drawn too heavy and then you couldn't erase all those lines. All right, boys and girls, once you have planned out all of your shapes for your landscape, double checking that you have foreground, middle ground, and a background, as well as 2 to 3 details. You are going to be taking a permanent marker. Ooh. Permanent, meaning try your best not to get it on your clothing or on the table. If you get it on your hands, it's okay. You just go into the toilet and make sure and scrub it really nice with some water. The next thing is that when you are using a permanent marker, these ones need to be drawn slowly with. Take your time, sketching over all of your lines that you have created. Sometimes when I'm tracing over my lines, I even like to add other things that I didn't think of before, like a rock. If you are going too fast with your marker, you will start to hear it squeak. We do not want your marker to squeak because you actually will not have such a nicely drawn line if you're not taking it super slow with your marker. After you have traced over all of your lines on your landscape, the next step for today is that you are flipping your paper over to the back side, and I would like you to try and plan as many different patterns as you possibly can with your pencil, not with a marker, because next time you are going to be taking a marker to start your patterns on the front. On the back, I would like you to create a few boxes, let's say 10, a minimum of 10 boxes on the back, 1 inch by 1 inch, and begin planning some patterns that you can do on the front in your landscape. I even like to plan sometimes patterns within my patterns to really create some interest. You'll notice that on my finished piece, I have even layered over top with different colors and created patterns within my patterns. So I started with these lines that go in different directions, but then I added some horizontal lines in the middle and also dots along the empty lines. This makes your patterns extra interesting. Once you have completed 10 boxes of patterns, then I am giving you permission to begin on the front adding in your marker patterns with your thin line markers that are in your material box already. Try your best to be respectful of the tips of your marker. If you are doing dots and you pound down your marker with the dots, eventually your tip is going to shrink back into your marker and not be so nice anymore. Be gentle with your markers so that we can all continue enjoying them and getting really nice fine line patterns together. Just to recap, your main focus today is to plan and trace with your black marker your landscape. Then brainstorm 10 patterns on the back of your paper. Once you have done that, you may continue on to beginning your marker patterns. All right, boys and girls, you may head to your table and get started.